Hi, my name is Dominic and I'm going to be presenting over wired versus wireless networks, and I'm going to be giving a little insight between the two. So before I begin, I'm going to start with a couple terms that need to be defined before I can fully talk about this. The first one is wired networks, and this refers to a network that's physically connected into a switch or a router or anything else that will get it connected to the internet. Means of connecting are usually by an Ethernet RJ45 cable. Other methods are via fiber optics, and they comply with the standard 802.3. Wireless networks are networks that devices or cell phones or anything else that you can access the internet by is connected via wireless, so over radio frequencies, and those are compliant with 802.11 standard. And next, we're going to be talking about the OSI model. The OSI model is a model that kind of lets people know how data is transmitted through the 7 layers. So the layers we're going to be talking about today are the physical and data link layers, which are the 6th and 7th. And the OSI model pretty much shows how data travels across the network. It starts out as bits, to frames, to packets, to segments, to data, and the data is able to be received and read. And when it's sent out, it goes data, segments, packets, frames, bits, and then vice versa. And yeah, every single layer on the OSI model does a different function and has different devices or software or protocols that are associated with it. And referring back to the OSI model that was in the previous slide, the reason I had the 6th and 7th layers highlighted, which is also called layer 1 and 2 of the OSI model, is because those are where the differences occur when we're talking to wired and wireless OSI networks. So another difference between the two is wireless uses CSMA/CA and wired uses CSMA/CD at layer 2, which the difference between the two is CSMA/CA avoids the traffic crashing at all costs. It is a big priority that traffic cannot collide at any cost, while CMSA/CD actually lets that traffic collide, and it kind of analyzes it a little bit, and it'll keep that traffic kind of in pending until the line is clear, and then it lets the traffic go back. It allows the traffic to go through. Another difference is they both use different IEE standards. Wired uses 802.3, while wireless uses 802.1. And it's important to understand that they both use different IEE standards because it will help you understand how traffic flows across the two types of networks. Another difference is wireless needs to agree on the frequency that data is going to be sent, while wired has to agree on the type of media and the signal type. 802.11 and 802.3 actually don't have the same frame size too. That's another difference. So that can affect the frequency or how fast traffic is able to travel on that specific network in regards to wired versus wireless, because the frame sizes are different. And now I'm going to be talking about a couple different security risks on wired networks. One is called a rogue DHCP server. This is essentially an attacker comes to the company and plugs in their own DHCP server, which would hand out false addresses and false default gateway, and this would cause packet loss, and the computer would be receiving bogus addresses. This would allow a hacker to essentially view some of the information and extract it and use it in a malicious way if they knew how to and they wanted to. A way to counteract this is to enable DHCP snooping. What this would do is on the switch or the router or whatever has the DHCP service, it would only allow DHCP issuing of addresses from trusted ports. So that could lower the risk of a rogue DHCP server on the network. Another risk is someone could literally just come up to the company and plug in their device with a fiber optic or Ethernet or any other mean to connect into that network, and they could access sensitive information potentially, and they could take it and commit malicious acts with it, like selling on the dark web or anything else. Because a lot of networks have sensitive customer information like credit cards, addresses, emails, phone numbers, social securities. It just really depends on what kind of company it is. And in regards to someone physically connecting to the network to get private sensitive information, there's a couple things that you can do to combat this. One of which is 802.16. If you use that, then someone who's connected to the network would need to be authenticated with whatever method the company uses in order to get access to the network, which means if someone plugged in, they're just plugged in and it doesn't really do anything. They will have to authenticate themselves before they're able to see any of the sensitive information that's on the network. Another method we could use to prevent this is by activating port security. This essentially makes only the MAC address that's approved connect to the network. So each client, every computer, like employee computer, oh my gosh, sorry. Every employee computer would have a MAC address that would be put into the system, and only that address would be able to get on the network for that person. There are some ways around this, like an attacker could spoof the MAC address, but this is a start in combating just physically connecting without being authorized. All right, now on to some of the wireless security risks. One of the risks that pose against a company is called an evil twin attack. And this is referring to someone who creates a wireless network that looks almost identical to the network that the company provides. So say you were at like a library or a coffee shop and they offered free internet. So an attacker could make a clone of that internet by just creating their own internet to look exactly like the one that a customer would know to connect to. And some people want to know that it's actually a different network. They would just automatically try to connect to it, or if it's a first-time user, they would try to connect to it. And it would have they'd make it have the same SSID as the company's network. And this would allow the attacker to view and extract any information that's set over the network. And again, this includes sensitive information like user credentials, credit cards, social security numbers, and anything else that is sensitive. Another risk is since it's wireless, people could connect from different locations. So to combat this, we would use a VPN to ensure that the traffic that's being sent between client and the network is encrypted. And essentially, an easy way to describe this to people who don't know what a VPN is, a VPN essentially makes a tunnel, and that tunnel is from the computer to the network, and all the traffic that is going in it is protected by that tunnel. So an attacker can't see that because they can't get in it because it's VPN secure. And another one is stolen devices. So this refers to if a company has a BYOD policy. That means employees would bring their own devices to work, and they would have access to get into the network and see all the private information that's in there. So what someone can do is steal the device, and if they are able to somehow get past the password or find it out, then they would have access to the network, and that is a pretty big risk to wireless networks. Another wireless risk is employees need to be extra cautious when they're on the web. They need to ensure that they're actually connecting to the sites they're intending to, and they need to be on safe sites. Some sites, some attacks would redirect an employee from a site they know and trust to a site that looks similar to that site they know and trust to try and get them to input credentials so they can steal them. A way to kind of make sure that you're on a network that you should be on is to look up in the corner and see that it has HTTP encryption. Or sometimes, as I put an image in there, it'll say your connection is not private, and that kind of should raise a red flag. Another way to ensure that traffic can't be extracted by an attacker is to make sure that it is being encrypted. A good way to ensure this is to make sure you're on a VPN. That would kind of lower the chance of that happening. Another risk is called packet sniffing. And this is when you're connecting to a public network, say like a library again or a coffee shop like Starbucks. Starbucks has open network and usually it's non-encrypted. So an attacker could just be sitting in the coffee shop or wherever you're connected to that isn't encrypted, and they could be just using software to sniff out the packets that are being sent over the network, and they'd be able to extract information from that. So you got to be really careful when you're out in public or on a network that isn't encrypted. So in conclusion, it is a lot easier to manage wired security risks and wired networks because everything that is happening in the network is physically there and you know where it is. Wireless attacks are a lot, they're not as easy to detect because the attack could be happening from anywhere and there's a lot more vulnerabilities when it comes to wireless. Wired networks actually require the attacker to physically be there, as wireless networks don't. They could be anywhere in the world and be sending out those attacks. And that is my presentation over wireless and wired networks. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you maybe learned something from this.